All right, we're diving straight into a really deep divide in Thailand. But here's the thing, it's not about the usual stuff like politics or protests. No, this is a silent, almost invisible gap that's holding the entire country back. And it really all comes down to one core idea.
And there it is. This is the heart of the argument. You see, this kind of divide, it doesn't lead to big, loud protests or open conflict. Instead, it just quietly shapes people's lives. It limits what they think is possible, and ultimately, it slows down the whole nation's progress. It's a gap you feel much more than you can see in the numbers.
So what is this invisible gap really? It's not about poverty in the way we usually think about it. It's actually about something much more fundamental to how you live your life.
Now, on the surface, things might look okay. I mean, roads, electricity, internet, that stuff has reached most of the country. But that basic infrastructure, it doesn't tell the full story. The real difference, the real gap, is in the density of choices. It's about how many doors are open to you, and maybe more importantly, how many second chances you get.
This is where it gets really fascinating, how the problem is framed here. In Bangkok, life is like a web. If one path closes off, you can pivot, right? You find a different job, switch to a new school, tap into another network, you have options. But in the provinces, life can feel a lot more like a single track, a one-way street. Make one mistake, one wrong turn, and it can be incredibly tough to get back on course. So it's not just about wealth, you see, it's about resilience.
And all these things in the capital, they all link together. A great university connects you to a powerful network, which then opens doors to all these diverse careers. It creates this self-reinforcing engine for personal growth and success. And that engine just doesn't really exist in the same way anywhere else in the country.
So we have to ask, how did this happen? How was this divide even built? Well, to understand why Thailand is so incredibly centralized, we've got to look back at how the modern nation was actually formed. It wasn't an accident, it was a deliberate process.
Yeah, this goes all the way back to Thailand's rapid top-down modernization. See, to avoid being colonized and to build a strong nation-state, everything, and I mean everything, was focused on the capital. Bangkok became the center for all decision-making, while the provinces were basically given a supporting role. Their job was to supply labor, food, and resources. Now, that system worked for a long time, but it baked this fundamental imbalance right into the nation's DNA.
With an imbalance this big, it raises a really crucial question. Why hasn't it just led to a massive explosion?
And this, for me, is probably the most interesting part of the whole story. The reasons for this silence are a potent mix of cultural norms and some deeply, deeply held personal beliefs.
And this just brilliantly lays out the two powerful forces at play here. On one side, you've got a cultural preference to just avoid direct confrontation. But on the other, and this is huge, for generations, people from the provinces have internalized this idea that to really make it, you have to go to Bangkok. Moving to the capital became this rite of passage, the way you proved your potential. It wasn't just a hope, it was an accepted fact of life.
But that perception is starting to change. A lot of young people head to Bangkok only to find out that the promised opportunities, well, they're just not there. Or the cost of living is just too high. But here's the key. That frustration rarely ever turns into public anger. More often than not, it gets internalized. It's seen as a personal failure, not a systemic one. And that silence? Well, that silence allows the whole structure to continue completely unchallenged.
Okay, so here's the crucial point. This imbalance isn't just a problem for people living out in the provinces. No, it's a massive drag on the entire nation's potential.
I mean, just think about it logically. Bangkok is completely overburdened. It's choked by traffic, struggling with pollution, and housing is unaffordable for so many. At the exact same time, the provinces are being drained of their best and brightest. This constant brain drain makes it almost impossible for them to develop new industries and evolve their economies. So what you're left with is an entire country that's dangerously dependent on one single overstressed city. This internal inefficiency? It's a key reason why Thailand's economic growth has been slowing down compared to its neighbors.
And this is what brings us to why this quiet problem in Thailand actually matters to everyone, far beyond its borders.
You see, the answer isn't as simple as just throwing more money at the provinces. For young people to actually see a real future for themselves at home, their regions need genuine power. They need the autonomy to make their own meaningful decisions about their own schools, their local industries, and their own governance.
And let's be clear, this story is not unique to Thailand. Not at all. This model of concentrating everything into a single megacity, we've seen it play out all across Asia and the world.
Japan, China, South Korea, they're all grappling with their own versions of this exact challenge. That's why Thailand isn't just some isolated case study. It's a leading example, a warning, really, about the limits of this development model for everyone else.
So we're left with this final thought. The most dangerous problems aren't always the loudest ones. Sometimes they're the quiet, corrosive ones that just slowly eat away at a country's strength from the inside. And as our entire world becomes more and more urbanized, it's a critical question we all need to ask. Are we building webs of opportunity for everyone, or are we just creating more silent divides?